Here's an older guy and a younger guy, both actors, going for a part. They cut his salary down $5,000. He was making $10K in Vegas.
Humor that I do about the races is sort of a kind of humor to get people to understand why certain things exist and how to overcome the thought of hate when it should be love.
Redd was going nuts. He had all those old people from back in the day coming around him. We weren't together when he lost everything.
Demon Wilson has finally broken his silence on what really happened to Redd Foxx. And it's not what you think.
Redd and I were just two actors thrown together. The thing that we had in common was that we were not going to take any BS from anybody, black, white, Asian, or Hispanic.
The legendary comedian who made the whole world laugh allegedly died broke and struggling. But how did that happen?
I could tell you things about people you named that the little Fruit Loops. They bend over billies. You cannot make it to the top in that industry without selling your soul.
Demon is spilling all the tea, exposing the shocking truth behind Redd Foxx's downfall. Was he betrayed? Did Hollywood turn its back on him? Or was it his own doing? Let's find out. Redd Foxx was a comedy legend, a pioneer who broke barriers in entertainment and became one of the most beloved TV icons of his time. But despite his massive success, his life ended in financial ruin. Now, his longtime friend and Sanford and Son co-star Demon Wilson is finally revealing the shocking truth about what really happened to Redd Foxx, and it's not what you think.
He called me up a month or so later and said, "Would you like to do a series with Redd Foxx?" And I said, "Redd Foxx? Who's going to put him on television? Are you nuts? They'll never put him on television."
Demon Wilson and Redd Foxx's friendship wasn't just for the cameras. The two met in the early 1970s when they were cast as the father-son duo in Sanford and Son, an NBC sitcom that would go on to become one of the most iconic shows in television history. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, with Foxx playing the quick-witted and cranky Fred Sanford and Wilson playing his patient yet sarcastic son, Lamont.
Listen, let me tell you something right now, Pop. Now, the thing that I want you...
son. Okay.
Off-screen, their bond was just as strong. Redd Foxx, already an established comedian with a reputation for his raunchy stand-up routines, took Wilson under his wing. They shared a love for comedy, show business, and pushing the boundaries of entertainment. Despite their differences, Foxx was a seasoned veteran, while Wilson was still making a name for himself. The two had an unshakable camaraderie. Wilson often spoke about how Foxx looked out for him on set, teaching him the ropes of Hollywood while also keeping things lighthearted behind the scenes.
We weren't together when he lost everything.
However, while their friendship was built on mutual respect and laughter, it was also tested by the dark side of fame, money, and betrayal.
Here's some of my own material on television, and they won't let me do it, but still another guy can go on the show and do it. And then they get the young black comics and they twist their minds, and they talk about watermelon.
During the 1970s, Foxx soared to the pinnacle of comedy stardom. Widely recognized for his talent, he commanded some of the highest paychecks among comedians of that era. Adding to his triumphs, his portrayal of Fred Sanford in Sanford and Son propelled him to unprecedented heights, making him the highest-paid actor on TV for several consecutive years. Nevertheless, fame often accompanies a deceptive sense of invincibility and a penchant for discretionary spending that can spiral out of control. Redd Foxx unfortunately fell prey to this phenomenon, succumbing to a lifestyle of extravagance. Complicated by expensive divorce proceedings and a tendency to procrastinate on taxes, he found himself submerged in debt when tragedy struck.
Just young Stepin Fetchits and Mantan Morelands repeat. I won't go that direction. I turned down 2 major roles in a Broadway show.
At the time of his passing, Redd Foxx faced a staggering $3.5 million in unpaid taxes. Consequently, this overwhelming financial burden wiped out his net worth entirely, leaving the once prosperous star with a crushing $3.5 million on his balance sheet. The narrative of Foxx's downfall is both cautionary and tragic, serving as a stark reminder that fiscal responsibility is paramount, regardless of one's level of success or earning potential. Despite earning astronomical sums during his prime years, imprudent financial choices led to his ultimate financial ruin.
A role in a movie that would have made a difference in me, but I just couldn't accept the part that they offered me. It was really going back before Civil War.
Though Redd Foxx departed this world amidst financial challenges, let us not overlook the profound impact he had on comedy through his revolutionary contributions. His unfiltered humor reshaped stand-up comedy, leaving an indelible mark and opening doors for generations of comedians. Redd Foxx's portrayal of Fred G. Sanford in the immensely popular television show Sanford and Son played a pivotal role in his financial prosperity during the 1970s. The show consistently secured a place among the top 10 programs throughout its 5-year run, granting Foxx the leverage to negotiate higher salaries for his role, ultimately earning him around $35,000 per episode.
And shuffle, and I talk bad enough already. I don't need to put it on film, you know. Not for money.
Foxx's stellar performance on Sanford and Son earned him 6 Emmy Award nominations, underscoring the significant impact his character had on both audiences and critics. While he didn't secure any Emmy wins, these nominations solidified his status as one of the most recognizable figures on television during that era. Despite the financial success enjoyed during this period, it's crucial to recognize that Foxx encountered substantial financial challenges later in life, ultimately filing for bankruptcy protection in 1983 due to accrued debts. Certainly, there is no denying the profound impact Sanford and Son had on Redd Foxx's financial success in the 1970s. The show not only allowed him to amass a significant fortune, but also solidified his position as one of the highest-earning television stars of that era. Through his portrayal of Fred G. Sanford, Foxx showcased his comedic brilliance, winning the hearts of audiences globally.
Give me my money.
No, I said no.
No, I want my money. I saved
I said no, Pop. Now get out of here.
The reaction from the executive seems extreme, especially considering that Foxx, for his part, seemed to have been fully focused on making the show better with even new additions to it.
Other people that were in the show, you know, but we'll have new people, and we'll try to make it as good or better.
And what are the new people?
But then again, if you've had a revolver pointed at you from someone, I don't think you'd be saying the warmest things about the person. Besides the producers seemingly not liking him, he apparently had it even worse because he was a black man that knew exactly how to make people laugh, and they didn't seem to like that about him. This allegedly came from the creator of the show himself.
You ever think of doing it white rather than black?
As soon as Redd Foxx came into the picture as an idea, you know, it was undeniable.
But the height of it came in the wake of the actor's passing, when his co-star, right after he was pronounced to have passed on, revealed that the producers of the show said,
"We're 2 of the producers." And they said, "What are we going to do with the script?" She's sitting right here. They just told her that her husband was dead. And I went crazy.
Starting out as a full-time comedian at a raunchy nightclub, Foxx's life took a direction that not many people would have predicted as he made his way to television around the height of his club's success. While these details are true about Foxx's life, they don't even begin to scratch the surface of encompassing what the man went through. After gaining commercial success and even somewhat climbing to the height of that path, Foxx's life started to take a different direction as the comics started getting plagued by disasters. These were not the regular problems people had, at least not at the time, as there were seemingly only a handful of people as successful as he was in that line of work, so the idea of them even having problems with their bosses couldn't possibly be more far-fetched. Anyway, these were the sort of issues the icon had to deal with, and that might have led to him getting painted a certain way in front of many producers. And we all know how word of an actor being described as problematic spreads like wildfire. Well, this reality made the comic's life even more difficult than he could have ever seen coming, and that in turn seemed to have taken a toll on his health. Seeing as he had it so bad that it was affecting his physical well-being, you might see why the comic, who has been known to go to the extremes for his craft, pulled up with a revolver to make his grievances heard. However, even that didn't end the torment he was being made to face on the set of Sanford and Sons. There's a lot about Redd Foxx that's been misinterpreted over the years, but this is where we get the icon's story right. And trust me when I tell you that your mind will be blown by just how little you know of the true life Redd Foxx led. With that said, I believe I don't have to tell you to stay tuned till the end.
Listen, why don't you arrest some white drivers?
I do.
You do? Well, where are they? Look at all in here.
Where do the introductions begin? Redd Foxx is one of those few who need little to no introduction, as he has most often been referred to as the man, the myth, the legend. But besides his success speaking for him, Foxx actually had a pretty humble experience coming into the limelight, but of course that gets blurred in the media when you've made appearances with the great Richard Pryor. Nonetheless, even while he made it further than most people in his time, and even many after his time, Foxx's life was marred by several downs, some of which seem to have defined his legacy with his fans. I mean, what else are we supposed to think when fans are talking about him like this user who said, "Hollywood run by bunch of fallen angels or demons. Lord Jesus Christ is truly our Lord and Savior. Repent. Believe in the gospel. Be born again." But there's a lot more to his life, and it all started on the hit show Sanford and Son.
You pioneered the kind of humor that you do, didn't you?
I think so. I don't think I pioneered. I just think I was the first to just get on out there and refuse to work unless they let me do what I thought was honest,
It was a show, given its audacity and premise, that probably should not have worked. But 50 years ago, fresh off of their success with All in the Family, producers Norman Lear and Bud Yorkin reimagined the British sitcom Steptoe and Son with black actors to give the world Sanford and Son. Starring Redd Foxx and Demon Wilson, Sanford and Son debuted in January of 1972 at a time when few television shows even featured black actors, much less starred them. The 1960s had shows like I, Spy, which was a light drama, but before Sanford and Son, there were few shows that centered around black comedy. It can be argued that even after Sanford and Son, which remained a top 10 hit for 5 of its 6 seasons, there has never been a black comedy like it. I've always admired how the show brought levity and perspective to political issues and current events of the 1970s, said Ron Mayo, a former member of the Georgia House of Representatives and the son of the late Whitman Mayo, who became one of the show's breakout stars, Grady Wilson. The show was a historical reference to a period when political incorrectness was acceptable on primetime, mainstream broadcast television in the United States, Mayo said. Through 136 episodes, the show centered around the cantankerous junkyard owner Fred G. Sanford, played to the hilt by Foxx, who had already burnished his reputation as a stand-up comic famous for his X-rated party records. Sanford and Son followed the escapades of Fred G. Sanford, Redd Foxx, a junk dealer living in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles, and his grown child, Lamont, Demon Wilson. The program made an immediate star of stand-up comic Foxx, who would cut his teeth working a network of black-owned nightclubs in the South and Midwest, referred to as the Chitlin Circuit. Sanford and Son also made a name for itself by foregrounding issues of race. Nearly all of the main and recurring characters were people of color, and like All in the Family, both shows were produced by Norman Lear. It refused to shy away from issues of racism in the U.S. Instead, Sanford and Son forced its characters and audience to engage with these issues through both dialogue and storylines. Blending comedy and realism, the show was one of the first to depict the kinds of neighborhoods that many people of color lived in. Before Sanford and Son, a place like Watts wouldn't often find a home on the television screen. In this way, the plight of Black Americans formed a constant backdrop in the show. Yet at the same time, Fred himself wasn't above making derogatory comments about the Asians and Latinos also living in his community. The result was a show that not only focused on the Black experience, but acknowledged how complex the issue of race in America can be. And Sanford and Son did it all by making people laugh.
Look around here. There's enough in here to make a Tarzan movie.
Never preachy, the program used punchlines to point out both differences and commonalities among people, often through conflicts between the cantankerous Fred and his more liberal son Lamont. As it had been in All in the Family, the recipe was immensely popular, and Sanford and Son ended up in the top 10 of national ratings for 5 of its 6 seasons on air. But beyond its popularity, the show also helped create seismic changes in the way that television was made in the U.S. and the kind of people it showed. One of the key ways Sanford and Son did this was by hastening the introduction of Black creatives into Hollywood writing rooms, which until the 70s had been dominated by white people. A telling anecdote from writer Ted Bergman helped explain why this change was so necessary. Bergman penned a Sanford and Son episode in which Fred was playing Monopoly with a friend, leading to a line in which Fred exclaims that the board game was the only place in America where a Black man could own a railroad or a hotel. Foxx nixed the scene, however, because he said, "Black people don't play Monopoly." No matter how funny or revealing a scene might be, if it didn't reflect the Black experience, it wouldn't be true. Faced with this problem, Sanford and Son became one of the first shows to begin regularly incorporating scripts from Black writers, including comedy legends Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney.
A guy like Richard Pryor, do you think you influenced him?
I'm positive I did. He worked in my nightclub on La Cienega for almost a year because other places wouldn't hire him.
The show also provided a mainstream showcase for several actors and comedians of color. Performers who were able to use this exposure to advance their careers included LaWanda Page, Whitman Mayo, Pat Morita, Don Bexley, and Lynn Hamilton, among many more. Sanford and Son also attracted a bevy of famous Black Americans as guest stars, including George Foreman, B.B. King, and Scatman Crothers, among others. Beyond this, though, the show helped open the doors for many sitcoms focused on Black life in the 70s. Shows like Good Times, The Jeffersons, and What's Happening were all created in the wake of Sanford and Son, and were all helped by their success. Suddenly, the African-American series, or at least the sitcom, had commercial validity, television historian Donald Bogle wrote in his book Primetime Blues. There were still many challenges to be faced in this area. For many years, as Bogle also noted, representations of Black Americans still tended to be restricted to broad comedy. Still, Sanford and Son undeniably pushed things in the right direction. Maybe the single most important fact about the show, given the realities of Hollywood, was that it made a lot of money. As a result of our success, Demon Wilson told Get TV, Hollywood executives said, "Okay, Black shows, we're going to go with that." Sanford and Son was a comedy and a lot of fun to put onto the screen, but in retrospect, there was intense pressure on everyone. If we had failed, Wilson added, there wouldn't have been any Black shows for another decade. Fortunately for us all, they didn't. Sanford and Son was a hit, and television would never be the same. The Sanfords presented pure comedy. Any lessons it taught were intentionally coincidental. But what has remained the most controversial part of the show, right from when it first aired, was its lead actor. This is largely strange because the things being said about him online paint a different picture from what you'd expect from someone regarded as the most controversial figure of the show. However, that journey had more ups and downs than anyone could have possibly thought of for someone who reached the pinnacle of the entertainment industry.
What in the world would make you think you could make a television star out of Redd Foxx? Because his act was definitely X-rated.
Oh, but he didn't have to. I said, in answer to that, the man's a clown.
Fox was already an underground comedy legend when Cleavon Little, best known for his role as Sheriff Bart in Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles, suggested him for the lead in the mid-season replacement. Little wasn't available, but worked with Fox on Ossie Davis's 1970 neo-noir film Cotton Comes to Harlem. Before Fox played the junk dealer stuck with the bale of genuine Mississippi cotton, he was known as the king of the party records. In a time of repressed stand-up, Fox worked notoriously blue. He agreed to clean up his act for television, but consistently fought to keep Sanford and Son authentically funny. Raised on Chicago's South Side and later relocating to Harlem, Fox was known for keeping it real. Fox was 49 when the series began, but personalized the part and the show. Fred Sanford was named after Fox's brother, who died 5 years earlier. Lamont Sanford, played by Demon Wilson on the series, was named after Lamont Owsley, who was in a washtub band with Redd when they were both teenagers. While published reports contradict whether Wilson and Fox met in Las Vegas or on set for the first time, their chemistry was instantaneous and their timing was expert. There is a palpably genuine affection between the two actors. Wilson began acting after serving in the Army's 4th Infantry Division in Vietnam from 1966 to 1968, when he was wounded and discharged as a decorated veteran. He began in live theater and was featured in Broadway and off-Broadway shows. He acted in the films The Organization, 1971, and series like Mission Impossible. Producer Bud Yorkin took notice when Wilson and Cleavon Little played burglars on All in the Family in 1971. Fox fought to cast school friend and fellow blue stand-up LaWanda Page as Sanford's Bible-thumping, finger-wagging sister-in-law, Esther Anderson. Fox also made sure the comic Slappy White was featured as a guest star. They'd both got their first break opening for blues singer Dinah Washington. The rest of the cast was split between Fred's friends Skillet, Ernest Mayhand, Leroy Daniels, and Bubba Bexley, Don Bexley, and Lamont's friend Rollo, Nathaniel Taylor. Fox fought with NBC and the series producers to include this kind of humor. In spite of his edgy delivery, Fox was the first African-American comic to headline Las Vegas when he played the Aladdin Hotel in 1966.
Listen, Why don't you arrest some white drivers?
I do.
You do? Well, where are they? Look at all these niggas in here.
Fox wanted to know the same thing about black writers on his show. Sanford and Son had enough white producers to cast a Tarzan film, but white writers continued to dominate the scripts. Between this and a substandard contract, considering he saved NBC in the ratings, Fox walked off the series during season 3. Many to this day believe he was in the right for that move, as Sanford and Son was an instant hit because of Fox, and he wanted 25% ownership. Tandem Productions sued him for $10 million. He came back to star on NBC's retooled versions of the show, Sanford Arms, which premiered on Sept 16, 1977, and its sequel series, Sanford. Neither lasted long. Fox kept the 1951 Ford F1 truck, which appears in every episode. After the series ended, Wilson took the lead in the CBS sitcom Baby, I'm Back, which ran for 13 episodes. He played Oscar Madison to Ron Glass's Felix Unger in ABC's The New Odd Couple. He also starred in BET's Demon Wilson and Company and the TV series Girlfriends. Wilson's last film appearance was in the 2000 prison comedy Hammerlock. His last stage role was in a 2011 touring production of the faith-based play The Measure of a Man. In 1995, Wilson formed Restoration House of America, which provides rehabilitation services for former prison inmates. He has written 11 children's stories and several books, including Second Banana, the bittersweet memoirs of the Sanford and Son years, but that's not all about the show's characters. In 1989, Eddie Murphy cast Fox as craps dealer Benny Wilson in the film Harlem Nights. The film also starred Pryor and Della Reese, who was cast as Fox's co-star in his comeback sitcom, The Royal Family. The working title for the series was Chest Pains. It seems the reason for that might have been tied to the fact that Fox suffered a heart attack on Oct 11, 1991, during rehearsals for the show. His fellow cast members initially thought he was joking. Fox died later that night at the hospital.
Mrs. Fox, we've done all that we can do, and your husband is gone.
However, that wasn't the whole story of the icon's passing. Shortly after Fox's passing, Della Reese spoke about how infuriating it was to see her friend die. And what was worse was how the producers who were running the show they were on acted and reacted to the star's death. In the words of Reese, Fox and her were filming a show together called The Royal Family. And on that day, the show Entertainment Tonight was on set to film a special about Fox. So during one scene where Fox had no lines and was only supposed to be seen in the background, they used a stand-in during rehearsal while Fox was being interviewed. But in trying to show a sign of authority, the producers of the show dragged Fox out of his dressing room to a scene where he had to only walk behind a chair. Once Fox found out that he didn't have any lines and was just being used, he was livid and started cursing, only to grab his heart in pain and look at Reese saying, "Go call my wife! Go get my wife!" Fox was rushed to the hospital, and 4 hours later, he was pronounced dead. What the producers said next was even more horrible. After the doctor came out and told Fox's wife and Reese that he had died, the two producers who were also in attendance only said, "Now who is going to get to do Fox's lines?"
Standing this close were two of the producers, and they said, "What are we going to do with this script?"
Upon hearing that they were not in the least concerned with her friend, Reese blew up at the producers and stormed out of the hospital, vowing never to do that show or work on a show like that ever again. Well, let's just say many fans, upon hearing the events that led to his passing, were heartbroken, and they didn't hide it. One person wrote, "Some people are strong enough not to accept anything less than." Now, the only thing people seem to care about is carrying on the icon's legacy, and from how big it's become, you can be sure it'll last forever. That's it for this video. Goodbye.